Welcome back to like week 3 of writing that book that we started. And I'll go do a recap real quick, but we always want to thank TogiNet for being with us for so many years and bringing me to you and our variety of topics and our ongoing sponsor from the get-go, NZ Graphics, Nick Zellinger, who is a fabulous cover designer, interior designer, and Rebecca Finkel of fpgd.com. And Rebecca is also an amazing award-winning cover designer, interior designer, and she makes awesome swag to support your book and think about events and all the elements that go around it. So we highly recommend either one. They both have worked on my books. I have them ongoing. Nick had a big celebration, and we realized we had worked on 300 books together over the many years and bringing books alive. So that's kind of cool. All right. The other thing I love to do is to open up with a little quote from my How to Create Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success for Authors and Writers. And you know what I love about this book that the bottom line is we all need some gooses, a few prompts and quotes sometimes to just get our author's juices flowing and going. So what I did is there are 400 of my personal quotes in here, not other people's quotes. It's things that I have done over the decades working with clients and coming together. But we're looking for example, the author and writer juice, kind of just like a daily glass will set you off. Inspiration and joy and all about your muse. There's a whole section on just writing savvy, smarts, tips, ahas, insights. And also, believe it or not, there's a section on failure. We all have major boo-boos. Some things just don't work. So getting through it and viewing it as a stepping stone. And then the whole thing on success, it's not a 7-letter word because success is elusive, it's seductive, and it's kind of exciting. And then lastly, there's a whole section, quotes on marketing moxie. So I'm going to suggest you get your copy. It's easy to read. There's like sometimes there's one, two pages, but like 3 quickie quotes to every page and just noodle on and get through. So today's is great authors didn't start out great. They got that way with ongoing writing and publishing. Author confidence will be your outcome. All right. So with that said, we're going to jump forward. And as I think back to our first section, I opened up the whole concept of storyboarding to you and the ideas. And I had 2 components of it. One was to lay out from like, just hold this, if we can get this, there we go, chapter to chapter. I do this with sticky notes, and each color has a meaning for me. So you notice it's not full of a whole bunch of words. These are triggers. These are triggers that I know then go to the resource to finish it out. It could have quotes, it could have interviews, it could have ahas, it could have a closing comment. This particular book I lay out in this book, the Author You book on really how to create and build your author platform. This is a workbook. You know, it originally came out at 45. I think we price it now on Amazon, and it's really the guidebook to take you through. So this is what I used, and I just revealed the step by step going through this. I also had something called book mapping, and you may be familiar with that. And book mapping starts with, I'm going to show, and it's going to be a pause, and we'll bring this way back so you can see it. It's a spoke, and it's like you take a plain piece of paper, I put a little circle in the center of it, I put book, or I put my title, a short of it, and then I start doing spokes all the way around that image. And the first one is the main title. All right. Then off of that main title, you have branches that will come off. This was the book on conflict resolution. And then some of the branches have more branches. Right. So in this particular area, the first big spoke was conflict resolution. That's what the book was about. And then we're talking about in the workplace, we're talking about in the culture, we're talking about in genders, we're talking about generational, and specifically, this particular book was about healthcare. And then off of that, more little spokes would come off. And it could be workplace, it could be male, female, integrated. So things to keep it going. So that was one thing that we talked about within the first area. So this is something like, and this is my little sheepy guys, but here's like just the book title, and then the spokes started that way and going around. Right now, as we went forward, I also revealed a whole thing that I think is extraordinarily important for you to do. And this was the game plan. And the game plan went kind of like this to this. And what did the game plan have on it? The game plan included, who was I writing for? What was the value? What's the benefit of it? What kind of outlets would I use to create my book? Like on mine, on this particular one, I was going to have print, I was going to have an ebook, and I was going to have CD and DVDs. Okay, and already some of that has changed. All right, I would have little reminders, note to myself. Like one of my favorite quotes from Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success is, if you never say no, your yeses are worthless. And another one that I use, when I am in the binge of writing, and this is what we're doing, is how to write, I have to remind myself, I have to say no. I have to become almost myopic if my goal is to finish this chapter, to write this book. I also had another one is, don't do well what you have no business doing. I don't know about you. I mean, I can get a lot of things done. I can throw a lot of balls up in the air. But should I be narrowing it down so I can just write the book? And then I had areas, okay, so where could I derive income in my game plan? What kind of money outlays, as well as time and energy, would I have to do to get this out there? What am I going to have to do? Am I going to get help? Do I need virtual assistance help? I need other help. I need editors to come into play. I need book designers, cover designers. Who do I need to help create this baby? And then in this particular book that I was writing, the book on conflict, was I going to have any activities or exercises for people to do? I created some questionnaires throughout it. For example, one was called How to Identify Red Ink Behavior. That was a wowza. How to identify the unwritten rules in your workplace. That was another huge wowza. And it turned out to be a major segment of workshops that I did when I was out on the road talking about my book. I also have a section on this whole game plan that I call the dump zone, things to remind me to stay away from that don't do well what you have no business doing, as well as what's the wrong connectors. For example, if there's certain groups that you just don't connect with or are not the fit, put them down. You're not going to put your energy into time in those. And then I have on here, like on my spreadsheet, I have little M&Ms because this was my reward is every time I finished a chapter, I got a big bag of M&Ms. That was my reward. Right. So, and I gained 10 pounds on that book. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that this book was so instrumental and putting it out, the Author You book. And in here, literally, it takes a village. It takes a village to create what you're doing. If you're going to try to do this all as a DIY, I'm going to tell you, you're going to get in trouble because it will look like a DIY. All right, so that was the first week. We worked on that. All right, the second week we came in and we started looking at some other options that came into play that we wanted to take you to the next level, the next step in this thing. And that particular is we had kind of had some fun with it, and which is what I want to have fun today because I'm going to talk about tools, some of the tools that will be really must have for you to really bring about and make it work for you. But in the second week, last week, we talked about the really this is the essential thing. It's the who. Who are you writing for? And in fact, you need to bring this into place when you, which we'll talk about also today, cover design. That a lot of times people think that the cover is for me. Oh no, 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 it is not. It's for your buyer. I want you to like your cover, of course. I don't want you to have to apologize for it, which, by the way, I have done many times when I was published with New York. 18 of my 48 books now have been published with New York. And that's what I wanted to um I never want to have to apologize for a cover, and I did it a lot of times. But it goes with the who. Who are you writing for? And what are their problems they have? And you're going to ease them. Whether it's fiction again, I've said this a zillion times, whether you're just giving it an escape, and I'm bored. I need to get away. It's too chaotic. I just need to pop out. All right, great. So that's what you do for your fiction readers. But your nonfiction, now we're getting into other kinds of things and maybe offering a variety of tools with that. All right. So, and then I talked about also why it's important to know who your competitors, your comparable authors are out there. And then I got into how to lay out your chapters. Okay. So that was last week. And then the last thing I left you with was writing prompts to get into and use in that area. So this week, we're going to play with tools and some of the tools that you can use for your copy, for your enhancing it. Because one of the big questions is, and I hear the pushback coming. I'm telling you, this is the pushback time. That it's called marketing. When should you start marketing your book? The day you start thinking about it. The day you start setting yourself up as the influencer, as the expert, as the supreme storyteller. That's when you start marketing your book. So let's say you didn't do it then. Okay. All right. I get it totally. So that will be today then. You start marketing it today. Now, one of the things that you will do that right away with is literally like Photofunia. And you can start making images. I'm going to get into that and what that site is, but it's a free site, which I love. But it's you start creating images that would reflect it. You're going to be thinking about websites of going to like Pixabay. You're going to be where you're going to start collecting them. There's over millions and millions of images, excuse me, that you can collect free and use to make future posters. You want to think about your phone as a fabulous tool, taking pictures and using some of those images. You never know where that is and what you have there. So do take advantage of all of this. But so I'm going to go through a variety of tools today of what you could use and go into it. So, and I have a laundry list. So you might as well get out your paper and pencil and we'll just start writing them down, all right? Or pencil, pen, whatever you use. Excuse me. So let's start with images. And this is the marketing that you bring into it. And you also I need to get in here. Let's start with let's go with a real basic because you can add you do I want you to add an image here. Is that I want you to think about your email signature, which is also what I said last week. that you want to do that, I want you to think about your email signature, think about colors, think about fonts, think about branding, total branding. And I want you to have your name big, bold. It could have a twist of the font. We are certainly not using any Times New Roman. Okay, so let's get a little class in here, right? And then underneath it, I mentioned also last week slogans, some taglines. So in your writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, what are you promising your reader? What expertise are you offering, bringing in contemporary romance with a twist as a fiction author? Are you bringing in epic fantasies with dragons and masters and what else? What are you promising? If you're nonfiction, then your area of expertise. What is that about? Okay, so if you looked at my website, thebookshepherd.com, my tagline right underneath my name is going to involve creating practical publishing advice and guidance. That's my promise to you. That's my promise to you. And I have a variation of it, like I have 5 words, create, develop, and go on to it. In fact, last one is achieve. But just like stepping stone, step, 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 step. You can do it that way too. But that would go right underneath my name. I would have also in this email signature, I would put you down as an author. I would put you maybe down as a speaker. You may be a consultant. What else here? This is not the time where you put mom, cook, unless you're doing cookbooks, anything like that. This is the professional side of it, right? The next step that you would do underneath this email signature is that you're going to come in with, you might say, forthcoming book, give your title. And by the way, do not worry if the title changes. Do not worry, please. And the title comes about, and you will move into that, and you will have a variety of things in that. But whatever the title is, and you could say available in 2026 or fall of 2027. I mean, whenever this baby is going to come, it's not in concrete, it's changeable and all that. And then make sure that you have your email in that signature, you have your website in the signature, and I put my phone number in that signature. All right. So that whatever it is, and you can have lots of different signatures, by the way. Like I do have one for as the author, I do have one for speaking, I do have one for my consulting practice. Whatever works for you is what you want to bring about. So I just want to encourage you. You start with an email signature with that, and you go across with it. All right. So add an image. Now, if you have a book cover, you can add in, but you do have your own picture, right? That looks like you, at least within the last 5 years. You can add that in and have those. All right. So those I want you to have as to getting goes. These are the kind of tools that we want. Now, another tool is what I call for writing. It's the thesauruses, when I jumbled that one, thesauruses that Angela Ackerman and Becca Pogulsi put out, and that's Ackerman, and Becca is Puglisi. Right? They have got amazing books that they have created, and I'm going to show a few to you. Now, for example, this is the emotional thesaurus, right? So what do you need emotional thesaurus for? Well, and then this is it's a writer's guide to character expression. This gets away from the dull side of it. And you're going to have, there'll be different signals that you go into it, and they do a how to do it. But in their contents, they're talking about, for example, amazement. How do you express amazement? Anticipation, confidence, conflict, confusion, denial, disbelief, dread, eagerness, fear, excitement. I'm skipping over a lot because 50 things here. Overwhelm, nostalgia, nervousness, sadness, sympathy, terror, worry, all in here. And then they go into real examples from like what physical signals do you need to write with? With an upturned face, a smile spread across her face. Okay. So now we're off and running. And I just took this phrase from here, a physical signal, an upturned face. And then I just started talking in there. But if you want to look for awesome writing prompts to get you going and using from the emotion side, this is your book that you want. And I would just say, forget going to the library, people. You want to buy this because you're going to be writing on it. I promise you. Right. There's 8 in the series. I just have a few here to show you. Here's ones on being positive, the positive trait on that. So that, what you're doing is trying to unearth your character's personality. This is fiction, boy, comes out. They're different personalities that will have it and have that. Then we go from positive to gulp. Let's try negative, right? The negative trait to Taurus. So when you're going into that, it could be, if I just go into my table of contents again really quick. Okay, so we could have addictive, we could have callous, we could have meow, catty. You could have confrontational, controlling, dishonest, evasive, full on that. You could have judgmental, martyr, manipulative, forgetful, fussy, gossipy, timid, rowdy, reckless, pushy, worrywart, worrywart, right? So you've got all kinds of help here to move you into of that. And just, what happens if you got the bully who's always egging people on? There are ideas to use in here that will take your writing into another area. And then one other one I just pulled these off my shelf. I've got more of them. All right. But the emotional, what is an emotional wound as you get into that of that? And it could be failures and mistakes. It could be injustice. It could be betrayal. Eek. I mean, I wish I had this when I was writing my book on sabotage, which had so many elements of betrayal. It would have changed the way I wrote much of the sections as you led into them. And you could have crime, and you could have victimization. You could have childhood wounds, and traumatic events. So these kind of things are just like thank you to both Angela and Becca for their savviness in writing that will just make a world of difference and actually get your writing to soar above the crowds. And isn't that what you want to do? So tool number 2, you want the emotional, the wounded, the positive, the negative, so many others of the thesauruses that Ackerman and Pulaski have put together to add to your toolkit. This is a toolkit thing to have. Right. So email signature, we're going to have the thesauruses. Now, what else should you add to your mix? Well, when I did my class on how to write a book, and a little bit extended because it was a live workshop that we did for 2 hours for 6 weeks that I had been really working them. So I said, okay, so I'm going to come in and we are going to play today, right? Let's do a little playing today. So one thing that you can play with is one of my favorite tools is something called Photofunia. And I think I mentioned this in a previous session. Photofunia, Photofunia, and then Photofunia. So what's this about Photofunia? Well, it's very cool, and that you can take images, could be you, and it could be a photo of your book cover, and you can start making things very quickly and showing it. And you can have themes. For example, when I taped this show for you, it was All Saints Day. It was Halloween, just happened to land on the same day. So there are things that you can do to show, that you could take a very simple picture and all of a sudden it goes in another direction, which would make it so fun for you to have and make up some outrageous image that would be amazing. And I'm going to do a share here real quick to show you one dealing with the Day of the Dead, because that's kind of fun to pull up. So I want to go into my pictures and bring it up real quick because I actually put out a post in the morning of Halloween to do that and wishing everyone um, uh, you know, uh, a fun Day of the Dead because they're celebrating the life of their loved ones. And for people who really do this, it's party time, it's picnic time, it's all kinds of things that they bring into play, which is such a hoot on that. So, we never know which way it's going to come up, but we have different things, and it's just really fun. So I'm going to show you, all right, one of mine, and this would be the Day of the Dead. So if I can get my little screen over to do a share. All right, so Ben, you want to turn my sharing on so I can do this? And we're going to have the sharing and we're going to come off. And then, so here we're going to go in very quickly and I will show it to you as soon as we can do it. All right, so here we go. All right, so we have this, and you can see this. So this is just one of my facial pictures, dropped it into the Photofunia, and in seconds, I'm talking like 10 seconds or less, voila, this is what happened. So this was just a regular photo, and I can't tell you how many people said, how much did you pay to have that makeup done? I paid nothing. So, kind of a fun thing that you can do in this process. So, just examples of things that will take you, and again, we're talking about stockpiling and having a little fun. So, with Photofunia, their images, for example, that when I talked about hashtags last week, that there's days of the week, like Wolf Wednesday is uh, dogs, and then Meow Monday is kitty cats. Catterday is kitty cats. You could actually put into the search bar on Photofunia, you could put dogs and you could put cats, and they will come up with images. And maybe your cat is like laying across your book, and that you can see the cover of your book, and it can pop out. Why would you do that? Because that's for marketing. It's just pushing out. It's just getting the attention. It's a filler in your social media feeds. So that's what you're doing in this overall process. You're just going back and forth, and having, and to me, it's just kind of having a good time. All right, so Photofunia is you're going to add it to your trick. And again, that's PHOTOFUNIA.com, all one word. All right, now, other photos. Where could you go looking for photos? Well, there's a couple of major places that you want to go. One is Pixabay, Pixabay, and you can go on there. And this is where I would go into collection time, where you would be doing a variety of things. And it could, any kind of imagery that would do it. Like, I love flowers, I love colors. And sometimes the brighter the better. But I will go in and I love certain flowers better than other flowers on those. So I would just go in. Let's say I was going in looking for, oh, one of my favorite flowers is a Cosmo. And I could put in cosmos. All of a sudden, a gazillion images of cosmos will pop up. And I will be able to now just download for free ones that I want just to save, because that might be an image background for a future poster I might make that has a saying. For example, don't do well what you have no business doing. All right, something like that. Maybe one of my quotes. So that's what you kind of thing you're looking for. And I'm just that, to me, this is inventory building, it's stockpiling, that you want to keep going and just going on the hunt for. Now, what if you find something? And also, I want to give you a warning. When you go onto Pixabay, usually the top row, there's like 4 images on the top. The top row, um, those cost money and they all come from iStock. Just go down to the next row and the next and the next and the next. And also that a lot of these images, because there's millions in here, that that people like on Google, when they're doing a search, they stop on the first page, like 90% of the population. Go deeper. Go deeper, because if everyone else is looking at Pixabay for stuff and they're just pulling images off the first couple of pages, gosh, maybe on page 10, maybe page 20, there is something really unique that you would like. So I'm saying go deeper. Now, what happens if you can't find something? Another great resource is under the wiki label, and it's Wikimedia, Wiki Media, Media, Commons with an S, plural, .com. You will find some old images buried in there. Again, search bar, use your theme or a specific name and see what they come up with. Those are free. Kind of cool. Okay. So you can go on to that. All right, let's continue on. So you've got that. There's another great website. And although Pixabay has some too for videos, but Pexels, Pexels, Souls, where you can go on and find images, videos, all kinds of goodies on there. Now, how are you going to put all this together? All right, so a couple things that Canva, well known, great resource. There's a fee and free. You can do amazing things just on the free side. So unless you're really into it or designing for other people, you can stay probably with the free side. All right, it's up to you. And Canva can turn into an amazing DIY resource to do a lot of this in that area. All right, and then there is also another great tool that I'm fond of and a huge supporter, which is BookBrush. Right, and bookbrush.com is a free and a fee also. I am a platinum member because I wanted all the bells and whistles. I wanted to be able to do box sets. I wanted to do secret reveals. I wanted to get into other things. But the free version has lots of stuff that you can start off and get going on. So I'd play with that and just go there. If you decide to upgrade it, or maybe if you join, you have to join to be able to use the tool. I have a coupon code, and it's just my first name, Judith, and the number 15. And it doesn't matter if it's lowercase, uppercase, mixed case, doesn't matter. Judith 15, 15. And that'll give you, if you decide to go into a paid version, that will give you a 15% discount. Okay. I don't get anything for it. It's just a good deal for you with that as you come along. So we have those kind of things. Now, as you move forward, the other tools that you need to take a look at, and I talked about schedulers. Schedulers would be, and these are all going to cost money at some point. But that if you're using them, the bonus of a scheduler is that you're putting things out and you're going a timeline. So you can go on holiday, whether you want to just do a staycation and just not, I want to be alone type thing. or you're going to Europe, or you're going to Mexico, or you're going to go on a cruise, or fill in the blank. You can use a scheduler to set up posting, social media, emails going out, that kind of thing, while you're gone and no one knows you're gone. One of the big mistakes I see so many make when they're on holidays is they're posting all these fabulous shots every which way. And it's almost like an announcement saying, oh, by the way, you naughty people out there, I'm going to be gone for a week. No one's going to be in my house. Might want to back up a truck and just empty it out. Don't put yourself in that position. Don't put yourself. You can share all those fabulous pictures and talk about that holiday you have when you get back. And that's what I would encourage you to do. Or if you're going to share any pictures, don't do it on Facebook. Don't share it, share it privately with friends that you can email to. But boy, I've seen people cleared out when they've done this kind of stuff. So, and I just want you to be careful, please, with that. So schedulers, what is the scheduler? Oh, Hootsuite, Publer, Planoly, Egger, Sprout Social. There's so many out there, and it allows you to just kind of, you can post across the board to so many at the same time, or set the date. It's like when I run my Amazon bestseller campaign supporting my clients, that I will have their posts to go out that maybe is slated in, maybe their campaign is in 2 weeks, that we will have that going, and I will post. I usually do it we usually do our bestseller campaigns on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Well, probably on Monday, I'll do all the posting out on my calendar on all my social media platforms to support that particular author and book, to share, you know, what the event is. And then I don't have to think about it because it's all set up. It's a set it and a forget it thing, which I kind of like. So schedulers are your friends. Take advantage of them. Now, there's also something else that I would encourage you to do, and I don't have my discount, but I do have a discount. And if you're interested in it, there's two that you need to email me, and I'll get it to you. One is for mockupshots.com. Mockup Shots is a great program. I like it because they update it all the time, and you do pay for it. And once in a while deals come about, but it allows you to take your book cover and drop it in, and all of a sudden, within seconds, you have a gazillion images. And I'm talking, well, not a gazillion, but hundreds and hundreds of images of your book in different scenarios that you can use for marketing promotion. Remember, I started off this session talking about when do you start marketing? Today, if you haven't already. I don't care if your book is not coming out till the middle of next year. You start putting things together. You starting the chatter. You want to get people excited and bringing it to that. All right, so mock-up shots is a great, once you have that cover, bang, it is your best friends. And another new tool that the company has created is called authorheadshots.com. And again, that's something you want to get a discount on. It's pricey, it's $500, it's worth every penny. But if we can get you a discount, you want that. All right, now writing. I talked about the thesauruses that are fabulous, the emotional, all the components of it. Another app you should know about is called the Hemingway app, spelled the same way. Ernest Hemingway spelled his name. And there's a free and there's a really minimal fee version too. I paid the $12 or whatever it was to have it lifetime, because I keep it on top of my desktop. So if I'm working on something, if I want feedback, if I'm making this too complicated, am I making it too difficult in this process, what I will do is drop it into the Hemingway app to see where it is so I can have that. And it'll tell me that, like, if I have too many adverbs, it'll tell me if it's too complicated. It'll let me know if it's too hard to read. It'll let me know what grade level I'm writing at. All these are important elements for you. And Hemingway is just the cat's meow. Now, the free version is you have to just go into Hemingway, the HemingwayApp.com all the time to get it. That's why I paid a few bucks to keep it on my desktop, and I'm in and out very, very quickly. But remember, you may have a PhD in a gazillion things, but your readers, unless you're writing for academia, unless you're writing for just totally technical oriented, your readers are not there. And you've got to look at that sixth grade kind of level, and it simplifies it. And I know it's great and fun to use some new words. I love new words too, but I don't want to chase my reader to a dictionary format every once in a while to figure out what in the world I'm talking about. And I don't think you do either in the process. Okay, so we're moving along, and we have other areas, and another phenomenal resource. And again, I have a discount for this one, is Publisher Rocket. PublisherRocket.com is just a must-have tool for me. I keep this one also on my desktop, and that I have for doing comparables, to finding out updated categories for Amazon to be using to support over for looking over if I've got things kind of quirky and out of twist and I'm not going down the right path. Just doing some very simple maneuvers on that will help me retract. And I'm talking about tying in with Amazon, which is where most of your sales. How much most of your sales? Probably at least 60%. Unless you're out speaking on the platform, like I did for many years, that 80%, 85% of all my sales came from audiences where I was. Most people are going to be using an Amazon format, or if they're going to be, driving just exclusively to bookstores. So the Amazon is going to be selling probably at least 60%. If you're talking ebooks, people, we're talking 80%. That they have 80% of the market. Audiobooks is pretty high also. I don't know the exact percentage there, but it's all in play as we go along. So Publishers Rocket is a great resource to help you in that. All right. I mentioned last week comparable posters. And what is that? And it's just tying your coattailing on someone else who is successful in your genre. I lost the light here. In your genre, that you acknowledge, if you're looking for books that are this and this and this, or if you love the writing style of blah, 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 it's time for them to discover you. So you go from left to right because most of your readers are probably going to be in North America, Canada, North America, Europe, and they read left to right. And that you want them to have on the left side, the person you're, you know, kind of cheering for, acknowledging, and you on the right, so that their eyes transition and doing that and bring it into play. So you're in good shape here on that. Now, I also would highly recommend that you go to whoever you're talking about, is that you will go to their website. I'd start with their website, and I would find the icons, whether they're at the top in the dashboard of these other best-selling type authors, competitive authors for you, or at the bottom, they're going to be at one place in there if they're on social media, and you follow them. You follow them. And when you do your posts out, of them, I would tag them so they can see them because they want to know, maybe they want to know about you. Don't be surprised. They may follow you back. You may end up, I have a friend of mine who's developed some wonderful friendships with some of these other authors because she did exactly that in the process. So you can have, bring that along. So those are where you get your comparables from. And I would make a stable of them. Or if you have a book series, all of them, bring them together or one at a time. All right, now another great tool, and this is certainly a freebie here for you, is quote posters. You can build a wonderful social media following with quotes, inspirational, thoughtful, ahas. Maybe you're someone that comes up with wonderful lines. Why not make them a quote poster? Remember the images you picked up? Some of those, they could be the background of it. It would bring some texture to it. And I would have the quote and I would have your name. And maybe under your name would be author of blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we put covers of our books, but really we're trying to do words. We're trying to do words to bring that together, not so much push out the book. Now, if you're thinking, oh, Boyd, what am I going to do? What I'm going to do? Okay, so let's go to Brainy Quotes. Just go to brainyquotes.com and put in keywords. And there's a couple things you can do here. So it could be on your theme. It could be, something to bring it about. In my opinion, I would be working on things that would come about that you could work through and really talk about things that are, it brings synergy to your work and what you're about that supports your brand on that. Now, you could take that name, for example, I'm all about publishing, book marketing, writing. So I could go in and I could put book marketing on there and I could go up into an area. Well, let's just do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go into that and I'm going to go out of here and I'm going to go into Brainy Quotes. All right. So I'm just going to go to the old Google, brainyquote.com. All right. So they have quotes of the day, they got tips of the day, and they have this fabulous search box. So let's go into book marketing and see what comes up. All right, so they have to verify that I'm a human being. That would be really nice. Okay, so we have different people. Now, I'm not a big fan of quoting dead white men, so I'm going to probably skip over, although I do like that Groucho Marx quote. Actually, I think I like it a lot. So, outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. And inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. Inside of a dog's, it's too dark to read. So, taking on the play of the dog is the man's best friend, and we have Groucho Marx. Now, what can you do? You can take this quote and start with it, and you could turn it into one of your own. And it could be, see, you could say, some think a dog is person's best friend. And then you could say, period, not me. To me, a book is your best friend. And then I would probably use ellipse, dot, dot, dot. And now you can put your name on it, right? And claim it as your own. And you've got to find something that would be. This is kind of a fun quote from Jane Goodall, you know, where she takes some of this. When I found a book I could afford, I took it home. I would modify the quote. I would climb up my favorite tree and read it from cover to cover. That book was Tarzan of the Apes, and I fell in love with Tarzan. That's kind of like, ooh, feel good insight. You can still put your name on it. Or you'd put Jane's name on this one. Now, here's one, Stephen Wright. I'm writing a book and I've got the page numbers done. I'm writing a book. And then you could take this now part. To prove it, I've already bought my first ream of paper. Now that's your quote. So what I'm saying is you can just play around in here and have a really good time with brainy quotes as the seed of an idea, do a modifying, and then you can bring it back. And that's huge. That's a huge thing for you to do. All right, so what are some of the other goodies that I want you to have? We just have a couple of minutes here. I want you to start thinking about that your website. It's a tool. It's your visibility. For heaven's sakes, get someone who understands author websites. And if you don't know, contact me. I'll refer you to a few people. And then the last thing I wanted to two things throw at you before we close off. One, your smartphone is the greatest tool you can use. And when in doubt, get help. A VA, a virtual assistant. I have a couple that work for me full time. They make my life so much easier and workable because I can come up with all kinds of ideas. They can create them and then do the execution of them. All right, with that, this is Judith Briles. We're going to be back with you next week, and I'm going to get into all kinds of goodies to finalize getting this book out.